Some of Israel's closest allies have condemned comments made by Minister Bezalel Smotrich about letting 2 million Palestinians die of hunger. Smotrich claimed that it might be justified, it might be moral, to let them starve until Israeli captives are returned. Those comments have been heavily criticized by the US, the UK, and the European Union on Thursday. Let's get more on that with Phil Lavelle. Phil is in Washington, D.C. So, Phil, tell us what's being said. What's the reaction in Washington to this?
Well, I think saying heavily criticised is probably putting it mildly. The Biden administration, for want of a better word, seems pretty disgusted by these comments. It was a short statement that was released, but it was fairly to the point. It said, "We are appalled by these comments, and we reiterate that this rhetoric is harmful and it is disturbing. The President and the Secretary of State have repeatedly stressed the need to end the humanitarian crisis in Gaza, remove any obstacles to the flow of aid, and restore basic services for those in need." Now, of course, these comments will have been welcomed by some in the far right side of Israel, but they have been widely frowned upon in the international community. I mean, the European Union described them as, put them in plain terms, said this is a war crime, deliberate starvation. That's how you describe it. France said it had deep dismay at what it called scandalous remarks. And the UK said there could be absolutely no justification for these remarks. But perhaps now that we've seen some strong words come from the US, Israel's closest ally, maybe that will hit home a little bit more.
Well, this is just going to add to what are already fraught relations between the Biden administration and the Netanyahu government.
Yeah, I mean, the government here is really having to straddle two lines at the moment because it is giving unwavering support, ironclad is the word that they're using, for Israel in terms of its defence against Hezbollah and Iran. But at the same time, it is clearly obvious through both observations and through leaks that Joe Biden is getting increasingly frustrated with Prime Minister Netanyahu. I mean, just remember last week when he was at that airbase welcoming those hostages back from Russia, a couple of journalists threw some questions at him about the situation in Gaza, and Joe Biden said he, meaning Prime Minister Netanyahu, has the basis for a ceasefire. He's got to accept it. And he also said that the killing of Ismail Haniyeh had not helped. And obviously, Kamala Harris, who also met Netanyahu when he was in town last month, who could be president in January, not beyond the realms of possibility, she has said that she will not remain silent on the issue of Gaza. So obviously, there is a lot of pressure now from the US on Israel to accept that ceasefire. But these comments from the finance minister will not have done any help.
No, absolutely. And disgust, I think, is fair to say, voiced by the UK, the EU, and now the US. Disgust, but not actions, I would add. Phil Lavelle, reporting from Washington, D.C. Thank you very much.
Make sure to subscribe to our channel to get the latest news from Al Jazeera.